Hey there, my name is Carrie Watson and I'm a retail coach at CRS. And as a continuation from my last video, I discussed initial markup or IMU. And continuing the topic of markup and margin percentages, I'm talking about maintained markup in this video. And maintained markup is very similar to IMU, but it's actually taken at a different measurement and a different point of time. So IMU is the initial markup or the full price of the item, but MMU, the maintained markup, I like to call it the out the door margin. That's what our customers actually purchase the item for, and they walk out of the door with it, and you have their cash in your piggy bank because it was a good transaction. So MMU, the way that you figure it, instead of using the MSRP or the full price, you're actually using sold dollars, which takes into consideration any markdowns or discounts that you do in order to promote that item and convince your customers to purchase it. So you take your sold dollars minus the cost of the product divided by the sold amount. So from our IMU example, let's say that we're running a typical IMU Keystone of 50% inside the store. That means that you have a normal retail price of that product that we were studying a second ago of 80 bucks, and your cost is $40. That's an IMU of 50%. So all of a sudden that $80 item we have to take off. We have to promote it, we have to discount it, and we're deciding to mark it down by 20%. So what does that mean to an $80 item? All of a sudden the sold price goes from 80 to 64. So now we plug in 64. So 64 minus 40 divided by 64 gives us an MMU, or a maintained markup, of 37.5. But let's imagine that we were in the situation where we were running an IMU of 55%. And that same item, all of a sudden, it still costs $40, but we're marking it up to $90 instead of $80. Now, $10 doesn't seem like a lot, but just stick with me, and I think you'll be amazed at the end result. So you have your $90 item, it costs $40, but you have to mark it down 20%. So now the new retail price that your customer is buying it for is $72. It still costs $40. So your MMU in this instance is 44% compared to the 37.5% in the last instance. So what does that mean if you are an $850,000 store? Well, if you run your MMU at a 37.5%, like the first instance, where we took 20% off of a 50% IMU, then you make $318,750 to your, essentially that's the number that is gross sales minus cost of goods sold. So that's your profit, more or less. Well, what happens if you do scenario number 2 and you're able to capture 44% maintained markup? Well, all of a sudden you go up to $374,000 just by selling something for $10 more. And that's an additional, whoa, catastrophe. That's an additional $55,000 that you have in profitability that's going into your bank account that you can spend on your business, or maybe put a little bit extra in your pocket at the end of the year. So if you're not closely watching your IMU and your MMU, you might reconsider and just maybe take some time to do some studying, maybe reevaluate some of your goals, and I think you might be surprised in what's possible. Talk to you soon.